Most of those things that we have, these ideas and the hobbies and the crafts, can turn into your passion. You're going to walk away from my conversations not just feeling inspired or motivated, but you're feeling inspired because you now have a plan. And I think most people lack that plan or action after.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Salem Speakers Podcast. This is a show where we connect you with the leaders and visionaries who are truly shaping the future of business. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by one of those leaders. My guest is Noel Ransom Washington, dynamic operations executive and transformational leader who is known for as one of the most valuable skills in the industry, which is helping organizations bridge the massive gap between vision and execution. With over 18 years experience turning complex strategies into measurable results for multi-billion-dollar programs, Noel is the founder of Sigma Certify and an instructor at Emory University. She is a powerhouse who brings executive insight and real-world application to every stage she steps on. Her mission is to help people build lives, businesses, and legacies by design, not by default. So Noel, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be invited. Thank you.
Cool. So Noel, your career has been focused on turning big ideas into reality. And so in your experience, what is the single biggest reason that most brilliant strategies and visions fail to get executed properly?
That's in my experience, it's not necessarily that you don't have the right people or that you don't have the right processes. Sometimes processes aren't broken and you do have the right folks in the right position. But what it really means is what is the willingness and capability of you to make those changes, be able to see the pattern recognitions, connect the dots, and actually know what the steps are to take those specific actions. And that's where I come in because I bridge that strategy with the execution, but I do it in a way that helps everyone understand and takes that theory, takes those issues, the problems that they're trying to solve, help them understand intellectually and show them how to execute them. I say Monday morning, like if it meets that Monday morning test, are you going to be able to take some of these things that we're talking about and execute them before lunch on Monday? And if not, then we're probably still talking. We're probably still ideating, but we're not actually looking at executionable or actionable steps.
I love that you talk about turning complexity into clarity, and many leaders feel like they are drowning in complexity right now. So, what is the very first step a leader should take when they're facing a complex problem and really just don't even know where to begin?
Talk it through and understand what the real problem is that we're trying to solve. So I always go into what are we really needing to solve? Most of the time, we are bringing up symptoms of the actual issue. And it's sometimes difficult to translate what I call voice of the customer or voice of the people into what the measurable outcomes need to be because we talk in symptoms. My team won't listen. I'm overwhelmed. We're changing again. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. We've got 6 projects, but nothing's getting done, and I don't know what the value is. And when you have those anecdotes, you have to be able to take some time to understand what they're really trying to say. If someone says, I'm not going to that establishment because it takes too long and I never know what I'm going to get, that speaks to me like there's process variation. Every day, you don't know what service level you're going to receive because there's no consistent standardized expectation, no repeatable process. First thing we've got to really understand is what are we trying to solve and talk that through. And it's not going to be something that executives or leaders get overnight. It has to be something where we look at the real process and the people aligned with it who do the work every day, get some of that input in and feedback, and then start understanding how to peel the layer of the onion. It's multiple layers most of the time, and understand what that true problem is first before we even start solutioning or going into what we need to do.
You teach practical tools like Lean Six Sigma and project management at Emory University. So, for someone listening who isn't a project manager, What is one simple project management principle that they can apply to their life or career tomorrow to see immediate results?
Absolutely. So for project management and those individuals who may not really understand the world of project management or haven't been exposed to it, the first thing that I think most people can take away, regardless of whether or not you're wanting to get into project management or not, is to understand your personas of the people that you're working with every day. We call that stakeholder management, but in reality, and I teach sort of textbook stakeholder management, but the reality of it is we need to understand who we're working with. Who are the people? What's the persona? So we're managing every day, even though we don't know it, people's personalities, their motivation, their driving factors. Why is that person so analytical or they're asking so many questions? There's a reason behind resistance, and most of the time it's fear, or I'm not really involved in the decision and I don't like that, so I'm going to push back. But if we understand first what our personas are and who we're dealing with and why, then we can get down to the real meat of what we're talking about. And you understand what motivates people. Why do they ask those specific questions? In project management, that's called stakeholder management, right? And it's that textbook theory that we try to understand. But in reality, every day we're dealing with it, regardless of what we call it. We have to be able to manage and actually work within the confines of the folks that we are dealing with every day. And most times we don't have the luxury of choosing who those people are. So the best way to strategize for that is to make sure that we really take a look at taking some time to understand the people side of it and the personalities, the leadership traits, and then you can build communication around it. Then you can build relationships around that, which I believe is the core of everything regarding project management is that communication style.
You've worked across corporate, nonprofit, and educational environments. That's really a diverse background that not a lot of people have. What is a common leadership mistake that you see that is the same no matter what industry or vertical that you're in?
Yeah, that's interesting. I organically found myself in all those different areas, and the common thread within all of those, in between those, is from a leadership perspective, thinking that you have to know all of the answers and that you have to be the person that knows everything. That is the most common thread. I'm talking about from project managers to senior leaders to chief operating officers. Uh, you don't have to know everything and you don't need to appear to know everything. The most transparent way that you can be is to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but I'm resourceful enough to know who does. And I also give these examples like I'm a sports fanatic. I love sports too. So I like to give these sports analogies. But most of the time, our owners of our NFL teams or the owners of basketball may not always be a basketball player or a football player, but they have the business knowledge and the expertise to put together a huge franchise. But it's their knowledge of knowing who needs to be the best coach, who should be our general manager, who should be our scouting person. And if you've got the resources to get the right people in the room, you don't have to feel that pressure that you have to know everything all of the time. And one of the things that we all get, human nature dictates that we feel like we've got to be the person that knows it all because that lends more credibility. But I found that you can break down more walls by just being transparent and being a human being and saying, hey, I don't know all the answers, but I do know who knows that one. And you can start coming to me for resources because I can be able to identify who it is that needs to do what. And so that's what I found is the biggest roadblock for some of our executive leaders.
Let's talk about your company, Sigma Certify. What inspired you to found your own company, and what impact are you hoping to make with it?
Yeah, that's a very good question because I did not ever wake up in the morning saying, hey, you know what? I want to start this company and I want to start teaching folks how to do what I do. I organically kind of led into that. I call myself an accidental leader. I actually have a book series that is the Accidental Leader series, and it's all about me and how I just fell into these roles. But the reason why I think that resonates with people is because most of us find ourselves wearing many different hats, regardless of whether or not we're nonprofit, corporate America, or doing our own thing. And we're accidentally falling into these leadership categories. And so that kind of happened to me. And I start teaching, and I am wearing all these different hats in corporate America. Then I start teaching for universities, just really teaching folks how to do the same thing that I do so they can be successful. And folks started saying, "Hey, you know what do you charge to teach this?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't do that. I'll just, help you on the side, and I'll do all these things." And they're like, "You know what? You should really do your own thing." And I started to really think about that and put my own actionable twist to it, because most of the time we're teaching straight theory and contextual stuff, with textbook theory, but we're not merging reality and real world scenarios application into it. And that's when I thought, you know what? I got a niche here. I can actually help people. It's not necessarily to drive revenue more so than to drive results. And driving results means that people can sit in my class, and every day they pass that Monday morning test, they get something from it. And it's an audience that is a captive audience that's taking in some real world application where they can turn around and be successful project managers or change leaders or even executive leaders one day, really mastering their craft. And that's why I'm passionate about it. And I said, doesn't really feel like a job. And that's really the goal of most people, is to do things that you love to do that doesn't really feel like you have to do it. And that's why I started Sigma Certify, because I want to be able to make folks great. And I know that's my superpower, to be able to pass it forward and make sure that all of my knowledge is passed on to someone else, because I don't want to just keep it in a silo. And I think it's worthy for everyone to have something to take away from that.
But you're also a huge advocate of legacy building, and that's a word that can feel really big and intimidating to people sometimes.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you define legacy, and how can someone start building theirs through their daily actions and not just at the end of their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. Legacy building is my passion. So people, they kind of ask me all the time, like, what does success look like for you? Right. And I keep telling folks, it's not actually another title without anything behind that title. It's not another certification or promotion or anything like that. They matter. They absolutely do matter. I will not discount that. But they're not the legacy that I want to leave behind. So I started leading from what I think legacy is, and that is being able to build a framework and an ecosystem where leaders can build other leaders, and they can pass on their knowledge, their expertise. They can sit next to someone and say, "Let me show you exactly how I did this." And you put your own little creative freedom to it, because then you can take that and build on it. So it is the building blocks that I am trying to create to help others do something that I'm doing or better than what I'm doing, and also the motivation and some of the optimism that I want to wrap around that, to say you can actually get these things done. It's not a road that you can't travel. So I want someone to leave one of my presentations or podcasts or anything like that, uh, to be able to have some courage and have those difficult conversations, or take that step that they've always been procrastinating and trying to wait for something to be perfect to do, and just get it done. And I'm hoping that that is going to help build this legacy where others can kind of, it's contagious. They kind of take it and they run with it, and then they pay it forward. So that's what legacy is for me. It's not necessarily what we accomplish, but what I can build that helps other people build.
This leads perfectly to your mission, which is helping people build lives, businesses, and legacies by design, not by default. What does a life or business by default look like, and how does someone recognize if they're living it?
Yeah, absolutely. So by default is sort of falling into the daily grind and the daily life of things. And it's the wake up in the morning and I'm doing a great job. I am successful, whatever that is for you. People define success differently, but it's also um, maybe not living up to your purpose. Some folks look at that as a side hobby or something that I like to do for fun. But most of those things that we have, these ideas and the hobbies and the crafts, can turn into your passion, can turn into a small mom and pop shop that then builds into some franchises. And so I say that living legacy by default is just falling into the normal routine. And what makes someone um, the differentiator between good to great and amazing and then building that legacy is actually taking what their thought is and turning it into something that they build themselves. And it takes a good person to do that, some patience and some dedication and drive, but I think purpose driven is more of legacy by design. I'm intending to make change. And regardless of whether or not that change is difficult right now and gets easier over time, I know that it's going to make a difference and it's going to be valuable versus legacy by default, where I'm kind of just in the normal routine of things and I'm waiting for something to happen to me, but I'm not actually taking some of that initiative.
Your bio says that you're known for your transformational storytelling. Why are stories so much more effective at creating change than just presenting data or a list of instructions or, like you said, textbook kind of information?
Yeah, I will say that I am definitely a data-driven person. So think Lean Six Sigma statistics and all of that, right? But I do know that most everyone relates to something that is relatable to them. And that's not often statistics or algebraic equations and things like that. And so I know that data tells a story. And when I'm sitting with executive leaders, they're not wanting the specific raw data. They need to know what is the story behind that information. And that's where my superpower also comes into play because I'm able to tell those stories, but it's backed by some facts. And so for me, storytelling is making sure that I am relatable. To those who I am speaking to and speaking with on the daily basis. It's important for me because that's how I learn. I like to walk away from a meeting or a strategy session or a speaker's bureau and I want to walk away with something and I don't want to just be motivated for an hour or I close my notebook and I'm like, that sounded really good, but I don't have any action behind it. So it's important for the storytelling because in that story that I tell, I also weave in some of my failures, challenges, successes, the things that I had to overcome. It shows that I am a person and I am human. I am not perfect. And that's most of us. And if I can tell that story and make sure that that story is backed by some facts, then I am more credible. People will listen to you, but then that also teaches others how to do the same. And that then drives into that legacy by design, is the way you position yourself and the way that you tell those stories so that you can resonate with others and then you start building those relationships. So it's very important for the storytelling and I make it real. I absolutely make it real. It's definitely relatable. So I'm excited to just be on this journey. Yeah.
You speak to everyone from executives to entrepreneurs to emerging leaders and students. What is the one core message about leadership that you believe applies to every single person in that audience, no matter their job title?
I think one core theme for me is turn your curiosity into credibility. And this goes into some of our personas that believe that if I ask too many questions that people may think that I don't know what I'm talking about. Or it could be, I feel like I should know everything because my title is this, or I should not ask the question because my title is something lower. And I take that and I turn it around and use curiosity to build credibility. Oftentimes, asking someone what to do is not as powerful as saying, I've been thinking about what we discussed and I have some thoughts. And as I think about this, here are the things I think we should do. What do you think about it? You're not asking them to actually give you all the answers, but you're bouncing ideas off of someone. Now you're inviting them in to the story. You're inviting them to the party. They feel like they have input. You are now part of a team, and this can be done regardless of hierarchy, regardless of title. But I feel like when we're talking about different personas, leadership, titles, hierarchy, wherever you are in the organization, most people still fall in that same trap where the commonality is if I ask too many questions or I talk too much, then people are not going to believe that I know what I'm saying. But it's the way that you message and communicate and ask those questions that build that credibility. Now you look like a thinker and a strategic partner. You're thinking high level, not tactical. And you're also bouncing ideas off of someone. And now they say, hey, that person's a great thinker. I think they know what they're talking about. Let me go back to them for other ideas that they may share. Now you've started to position yourself as a leader. And I talk about that in many of my speeches because I realize that's a common thought among all of the folks that I'm speaking with.
For event planners listening who have an audience they want to energize and empower, what is the main feeling or outcome you want to leave an audience with after they've heard you speak for, let's say, an hour keynote?
That I have the blueprint now. I finally have the roadmap. She has outlined something that I can do almost immediately, even if it's taking the first step in picking up the phone to call that person or that leader that I have been putting off calling. I finally have a step-by-step process or blueprint that I can work with. So I'm not leaving just motivated or inspired for a short period of time. I do feel inspired, but that's long lasting now because I also have a plan. And I want everyone to know, regardless of what event it is, you're going to walk away from my conversations not just feeling inspired or motivated. You're feeling inspired because you now have a plan. And I think most people lack that plan or action after. And that's the most important thing that I want people to take away.
Noel, this has been a really powerful and really actionable conversation.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with us. For everyone listening out there, if you want to bring in Noel to energize your team and help them finally bridge the gap between vision and execution, you can find more about hiring her for your event on her speaker page, which we'll link in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Noel. And thank you all to the audience for tuning in to another Salem Speakers podcast. We'll see you next time.